What's going on, Facebook and podcast listeners? Welcome to this monumental episode of the Tim Macy Show. I have Treasure Davis on the show, and when I reached out to you about a month.
What's going on, Facebook and podcast listeners? Welcome.
Don't listen to us. We're crazy.
You gotta turn the sound off. It's like when you call into the radio show and you have the radio on. You can't do
right?
that.
I hate when people do that.
Yeah. No, so I reached out to you a month and a half ago or so on a referral, and you reminded me about the fact that I haven't had a female guest on the show. And I figured, hey, who better to have than the Treasure Davis? So, Treasure, for those who don't know you, tell us a little bit about who you are.
So my name is Treasure Davis, and I live in the beautiful state of Colorado. I'm a native Colorado Springs girl, and I'm very proud to live here and work here. I grew up in Kansas City, which we were talking about earlier. So I'm native Colorado, but grew up in Kansas City. And I got into real estate in 2005. And we have a team of, I think we were doing the math earlier. I have a team of 12. And can you hear me okay?
You're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have a team of 12. So last year we did 360 close and pending transactions. This year we just ended the quarter. So last year my whole goal was to hit 100 million. We did that. This year we're between 30 and 40 million, and we just hit 100 closed and pending transactions for the first quarter. So we are on our way. Our goal is 400, and we're on our way to hit that this year for sure. So
fantastic. Good stuff. So a lot of deals, pretty big team, tons of success, something that I think a lot of us probably strive to achieve. So how'd you get there? Where'd you get started, and how'd you get to where you are now?
You know, it's funny. So even though I was born in Colorado Springs, I didn't grow up here. So I was living in a really small town and had a child that I wanted to make sure had everything. Like most parents, I wanted to make sure that she had everything that she needed. So we decided to move to Colorado Springs. And when we did that, I joined my father-in-law, who was into real estate, and he made real estate look so easy. And I've never shared this story, I don't think, with very many people, but my father-in-law always was going to baseball games. He made six figures. He made real estate look like it was the easiest thing ever. And so I was like, if he can do that, I can do that. Well, he was also in selling network marketing. So he was in like a network multi-level marketing thing. And right when I came, he hit it big, if you will, in network marketing, and decided that he didn't really like real estate, that it wasn't really all it was cracked up to be. So he quit a month after I came on, and not because of anything happening. He just decided that why would he work when he was getting this residual income from multi-level marketing? And so we had bought a house here. We had quit, my husband and I had quit our jobs. We were working for the state, and we came here and we were like, well, we bought a house. We're either going to sink or swim. And so speaking of the whole community piece, I went to volunteer for the March of Dimes as their community director, and they ended up hiring me part-time, which was fantastic. So that's how I kind of got my foot in to kind of start meeting people and getting out there. And then as far as the growth went, I just literally held on to every single lead that I could and made sure that I followed up with them and I provided the best service that I could. And just things have always been very organic for us, which we're very thankful for, because while we do 360 transactions, we're on track for 400 transactions this year. People are like, oh, you have a big team, but there's only 6 of us that are selling. So if you divide that by the number of agents we have, that's a pretty big, I have agents on my team doing 90 transactions. People on my team are doing 50. And it's all from the basic core principles that we've built together to get where we are today. And it's all been very organic. So
that's a lot of stuff.
You're frozen.
Yeah, no. Good stuff. So big on past clients, it sounded like, right? Like making connections, building the SOI, building the past clients, and then just providing amazing service. Is that right?
Absolutely. I mean, that's definitely, and I can remember getting into real estate and, people were mentoring me along the way, and they would say, you got to pick a niche. And I'm like, no, Colorado Springs is little. I'm going to sell all of Colorado Springs. I don't need a niche. But you find that when you stay true to yourself and you stay organic, you find the niche, you find, if you will, your avatar of the client that you want to work with. Mm-hmm. And for me, that is our military. They are the heartbeat of everything that we do. I want to serve them. I want to serve them well. I'm thankful for everything that they sacrifice. And I hope that that shows in our business. And when people can actually feel your passion and not just hear you talk about your passion, I think that's when people know that you're true and you're genuine. And it's not just all BS. So
authenticity, right?
Yes.
Authentic stuff is the best. Jay Marks is on here. He says we're two of his favorite people. Thank you, Jay. I appreciate you.
Nice. Yeah, who do you like better, Jay?
Yeah, you have to choose. Don't give me that two of your favorite people thing. Make it.
Gotta pick one.
You gotta pick one. So, Josh, you talk about working with the military, right? We have a lot of military here in San Antonio. I'm prior service. There's a ton of things that go into it. It's very, like you said, it's a very niche community. What do you think is the most important thing that has led to your success working with the military?
So for me, I definitely think that it's been our ability to compete with USAA. They're really big in our marketplace, to compete with them and really come from a place of help. Like, because you're a prior service, you'll definitely understand this. But when people are PCSing from wherever they are, from either out of the country or in the country, they have a lot going on. And the last thing they need to do is be worried about the transaction details of what they're doing. Like, sometimes they don't even buy a house that they've seen, which is a really big deal. And so making sure that you can make them as confident as you can during the process, not only for our military clients, but for all of our clients. And that's been something that has been just really true to who we are. And I always say to the team, I think realtors have to buy and sell houses every 5 years, because you get a glimpse when it's your family of what you need to do to be successful in selling your home and buying a new home, and the stress and the pressure of negotiating. I think that it's something that realtors should do. And I think that, as we're talking about community, like giving back to the military and treating them with respect and not putting them into something that they can't afford. Like, while they have a BAH, which is what they get paid a month for people that don't know, that's what they're allowed for their housing and utilities, and making sure that you come in under that, and that if they had to, resell because something happened or they got orders or heaven forbid there was a tragedy, that they would be able to do that. So, and that's something that's obviously very near and dear to my heart and something very passionate about. So.
Well, one of the things we always have conversations around is kind of like, what's your value as a real estate agent? Because the value is always changing, right? The value proposition of the real estate agent in 2018 is much different than the value proposition in, 10, 15 years ago. And when you talk about working with military, it's such an opportunity for us as agents to take a certain clientele that needs a lot of the things that we offer, just like the things you talked about. Right? More so than the average buyer. They need us to be experts in the market. They need us to be able to handle more of the transaction. They need us to be able to do, FaceTime walkthroughs and 360 property tours. They need more of that. So it's such a great opportunity for us as real estate agent to take great clientele and add more value to them. And that's why I always get excited about the military clientele, because it's such a great opportunity to provide great service to a great clientele, right? I mean, you work with them on a regular basis. It's a good group of people to work with. So what are some ways that maybe you give back to that community that kind of help out your business along with helping out that group?
Some of them are great. Some of them are super hard. So one of the ways that we give back, well, there's lots of ways we give back, but one of the ways we give back is we do the Hungry Heroes, where they're getting off of the plane, they're getting ready to see their family, and McDonald's actually sponsors and gives them a Big Mac and a bottle of water, and welcomes them home. I do that occasionally. I'm not so great at that because sometimes I get a little emotional because you can just see the exhaustion on their face. Some other ways that we give back is I'm one of 4 realtors that teaches the home buying and home selling classes on Fort Carson, which is our biggest Army base in Colorado Springs. And a way that's super hard is that we are one of the sponsors. So the military, I don't know if a lot of people know this or not, but the military doesn't, when a soldier passes away and they decide to be cremated, they don't pay for the little box to have the soldier placed in. And we are the sponsor to make sure that if a family needs that we are the ones that step up and make sure that they do that. And so that's a really horrible one, but it's one that means the most to us because I've experienced a lot of tragedy in my life. I had a son that passed away, and in that time, the last thing you want to do is worry about the little details. Like, you just need someone to take care of them. And so giving back from a place of wanting to make things better has been something that's been really successful for us. And while it's hard, we know we're providing something that has not our name on it, not our branding on it, nothing to do with us, but we know in our hearts, and I think this is the first time we've ever talked about it publicly, that that's one of the ways that we're able to give back. So we try to keep that stuff on the down low. So now I'm kind of regretting that I said that, but
yeah. Well, look, I understand where you're coming from, and that being a generosity thing that you don't want to put publicly. But the only thing that I would tell you that the reason why I'm glad you put it out here is because you're going to put this out to other people. And I hope that whoever's listening to this can think of ways like, how can I genuinely help? That is just a way to genuinely help where people need it the most. That isn't necessarily some sort of direct relation to my business, because that is awesome. Colin just said that's awesome. It's an amazing thing that you guys are doing. And it's not a way for you to take credit, but hopefully it's a way to inspire others to think about those things that they can do. So thank you for sharing that. I appreciate you doing that. So that is a huge give back that you guys are doing. And
that's the way, when you're working with the military, like, that's honestly the way you have to do all of it. You cannot have your branding or your name or any kind of logoed name tag or anything when you go onto the military installations. Yeah. So if that's something that people want to pursue, they have to do it from a genuine heart, because otherwise they're not going to have the success that they want. And the success comes where people are like, oh, I saw you. Not necessarily I know your name, but I saw you do this or I saw you do that. And that's been something that has been really nice for us, is that people see us and then they make that connection. And again, it's organic. We're not out there with the hot air balloon over the base, which we'd get shot down. But we're not out there broadcasting our name. We're just trying to do good for people that protect us every day.
For sure.
So.
Jay brings up a good point. He said, one thing I learned is when you do help publicly, it does inspire others to get involved. I was secretly donating money, and the leader of a local charity taught me that this year. I think there is a good point in that. I think what you are doing is a good example of something you probably don't do publicly. But, I don't think there's anything wrong with some of the other things that you can do to do it publicly. I think you just kind of have to pick what makes sense, right? What makes sense to do publicly, and what makes sense to do kind of in private and just do as something that's genuinely just trying to help. But I think as real estate agents, when you talk about brand, right, and you can't wear your name tag or you can't fly the balloon, we need to go deeper with our brand building, and flying a balloon is not going deeper with our brand. And I think what you're talking about is about going deep. So kind of what are some other ways that you guys, instead of doing the typical stuff, are doing the really genuine value add things that are helping you build your brand?
So we did this really cool video where I gave everybody on the team $100 and in cash. And I said, go pay it forward. And then as they paid it forward, we shot video and made a video around what they chose to do. And it was very raw footage. We didn't have a professional videographer, but it was really great content. And we got so much amazing feedback because our listing manager saw this lady walking to and from work every single day and ended up chasing her kind of down the hill to give her the $100. And when she got there, she was so out of breath that it was humor, like it was a real raw footage. So we did do a video around that. We do a lot of things like in our farm, in our community, that we do have our name around. A lot of pop-bys. I'm on the school board. My kids go to school there. I live there. And so we do have our name around those things. I'm also on the board of the Ronald McDonald House. And in there, it obviously we're allowed to publicize what we do. And it's kind of like a group of people. And again, I'm involved in the Ronald McDonald House, not because of what they do for me, but because I'm able to give back to them. And I think that that's the one thing that I wanted to be able to get across today, is to say, like, if you're looking to do a nonprofit to build your business, as this is a true, pillar of your business, make sure you're doing it for what speaks to you. Like, what are you really passionate and genuine about? Because that's going to portray to the people you're volunteering with, the people that are around you. And then in there becomes the organic referral piece.
And not only that, we have such a burnout issue, right, in this business. I mean, it's so easy to get burned out, and you're doing the day-to-day, the year-to-year, the cycle-to-cycle. It gets rough. And if you don't have something like that that's more fulfilling than just closing transactions, it can get tough. So, I think one, like you said, you got to have a cause you care about, and it has to be genuinely about that, and the other things have to be just secondary consequences of the good thing you're doing. But it's also important to do it for yourself, because if you don't find something else that's fulfilling and brings you joy other than closing deals, it gets tough. And so, a lot of it is selfish, right? Like, you're selfishly giving, you're helping others and you're doing it genuinely. But when you truly help others, it's one of the most selfish things there is, because there's nothing really that makes you feel better than doing that. And so I love that stuff. If you're anything like me, you have a lot more ideas than you do action items. So what are some ideas that you have that you think you and your team want to execute coming up here that are going to help others and you're excited about doing?
So this is a Gary Vaynerchuk quote, and I'm going to not say it rightly, but he says, ideas, everybody has ideas. Like, the game is in execution. So while realtors have a million ideas and we're kind of squirrels and we like the shiny thing, it's all about what can we implement and what can we do. So we have done a few things. So our team every month goes and makes dinner for the Ronald McDonald House together. Sometimes we put it publicly, sometimes, most of the time we don't, but that's been something that's been really great for us. For our clients, we're letting them pick a nonprofit that they want to donate to, and then we're donating money to that nonprofit based off of the one that they pick in their name,
right,
not an our name, in their name.
Hold on.
Uh-oh.
What if your client wants to donate to some wacky organization that you don't want to donate to? What about that?
I mean, we do have a little bit, like, we don't allow political.
Okay. All right.
Anything that can be perceived political. We stay very Switzerland when it comes to political issues, even though we all have opinions. Nobody cares about our opinions.
Well, hold on. This is going to get interesting.
Okay, here we go.
Jay's on the video, and Jay just did some post the other day about, listen, you want to lose clients, put your political opinion on Facebook. On the same hand, here in the great state of Tejas, of Texas, I see a lot of agents putting their political opinion on Facebook, being very one-sided. And I think they're just, like you said, the niche, I think they're just catering to a certain crowd. So do you think there's any space for real estate agents to do that, to be politically opinionated and put that out in a public forum?
No.
All right.
None.
I like it.
And the reason why, like, if you look at the celebrities have been very vocal about how they feel one way or the other about certain things. And I mean, regardless of how they feel, it's going to affect who goes to the movies. Like, look, if you look at people standing or sitting or kneeling for the national anthem, regardless of what people felt, they had an opinion about it. And it did affect how many people watched football this year. And I don't know. I just think that there's no space for it at all. if you want to talk about it with your friends or family over Easter dinner, then feel free to go ahead and do that. But I think in this space, like, it's suicide because you don't know what people's preferences are, and you're segregating yourself, and we should not be segregating ourselves.
Well, I think it comes back down to a point of scalability, right? Like, you can post your political views and you can be one-sided about it, and you can have the goal of making a small group of raving fans, but you're never going to take over the entire city and be the biggest group or biggest agent in the city with, opinionated political views. On the same hand, maybe you're a solo agent and you want to do X amount of deals per year, and that's what you want to do, and you're happy doing that, and you're happy putting your political beliefs out there, and happy having your smaller group of people that are going to go to you almost because of the fact that they agree with you politically. So, I mean, maybe pick a running club. Maybe pick a running club or a hiking club. There's a lot of different things you could do that are a lot less divisive than politics.
I mean, maybe pick a gun club if you really want, that's political, but not quite political. So maybe pick something like, I don't know. I just think that there's no space for it in what we're trying to accomplish, because as we're handling people's biggest financial investments, I think the thing that realtors need to remember is it's not about us. It's not about our emotions and our bad day and what we have going on. It's about our clients. So that's just my personal soapbox. Is that what we're calling it on this show? Was our soapbox?
This show is all about the soapbox.
I didn't know I had a soapbox.
The only reason I do this show is so I have a soapbox I can get on every week. Okay. And I like to have my guests on them as well. Get on your soapbox. All right. That was good. I think
I just did.
I love it.
We didn't even fight.
Well, we can fight later. If you can slide to your left, there we go. And all right, perfect. You're just a little. I don't know if it was a political thing, but you were leaning right a little bit on the screen. So I just want to make sure we got you centered.
Don't go there.
I'm trying to go there. All right, good stuff. One other thing, when I asked you, I said, "Hey, what do you want to talk about?" You were really excited about net, and this is one that I find very interesting because I go to a lot of conferences. I go to a lot of events. I go to all these real estate things out there, and I see. And we have numbers that we judge success by. Sales, volume, team members, right? And nobody says, GCI, I did so much in GCI this year. And nobody says, what'd you net? Like, who has the highest tax return? That's never said on a stage. And so I think it's an interesting thing to talk about when you say you're very passionate about the net. So what are your feelings on agents and how they're running their businesses and how it's affecting their nets?
So here's the whole thing that I find so fascinating about realtors, because we've bought and sold businesses. That's been our thing, is kind of taking businesses that are failing, build them up and sell them off. And we've done really great, doing that. And so when we got into real estate, I thought it was very interesting that realtors don't really handle their finances. They have do you want to do check advances? Do you want to do things like that? Which I always found very fascinating. I'm not saying there's not a time or a place for it. I'm just saying I found it to be interesting. And so I think that with any small business, whether you have a yogurt store or whether you are a hairstylist, you have to know your finances at your home and at your business. And so I thought it was very interesting when talking to realtors that they don't know their finances. They don't know what they spend a month. They don't know what it takes for them to pay the bills and keep the lights on every single month. So they know, I have to have 2 transactions a month just to stay afloat. Because as we all know, being a realtor is very expensive. By the time you pay your broker, by the time you pay for advertising, by the time you actually put money aside for your taxes, pay your household goods, and save money for when the market's going to shift, that's a lot of things that realtors have to be prepared for. And there is such great money to be made in this industry that I'm so shocked that people don't take it as an actual business. They kind of fly by the seat of their pants and they spend their money I am getting a $20,000 check, so I'm going to go buy a brand new car today. I always have found that interesting.
Yeah, but
did you just buy one?
I need the new car because people won't take me seriously if I don't have a new car.
I mean, there is a place and a time for that, because I did buy my new car because I had a client get into it, and it was a nice Lexus. It was a nice Lexus, but it had a cassette player. It was a used Lexus. And when they got in, they were like, your car has a cassette player. And I'm like, no, it's actually an iPhone holder. I put my iPhone in it and it holds it. And so I thought, okay, maybe it's time to upgrade a little bit, as shallow as that is. But I think there's a time and a place for it, but it's making a good financial decision and keeping that car or whatever. So I am so passionate about P&Ls. Like, I talked to Tom Berry about it last week. I'm like, we do not talk about this enough. Mm-hmm. I think that, I mean, what I do with my coach, what I did before I had a coach, with my advisor, with my accountant, was making sure that, we looked at our P&L every single month. Now, if you ask me to put together a P&L, I am an artist. I would be like, I'm not sure how to put that together. Yeah, I could probably Google it and figure it out, or YouTube it, but I don't want to. So before I, had an operator, I had an accountant. And so the accountant could put together a P&L for me. And sometimes it came together really nicely. And other times it was a box of receipts that were all crumpled in there from everything that I had done. And we would give that box of receipts to our accountant, and they would, do a P&L for us. And the other thing that I just learned, I mean, there's always ways to look at that. So we look at our P&L monthly. I do that with my coach monthly, to look at the expenses, to know what we're running and where we can cut. We look at it every quarter. So last quarter versus this quarter. So we're doing Q1 of 2017 versus Q1 of 2018 to see where we're tracking at. And then we always do every year. And we always look to see where we can cut anywhere from 10 to 20% a year out of that budget, because every realtor that's listening to the show, we sign up for things and we forget that we signed up for things. And then we're like, what do you mean I paid $600 for this program that I've never even opened the box for? And keeping yourself accountable to that. You just did it. I can see you smiling. You just signed up for something.
Well, I mean, I sign up for something every week, but right. At the end of the year last year, we went through and I was like, I got to cancel this. I got to cancel this. I got to cancel this. But we probably do it quarterly. I mean, I don't know if it's a problem of mine. The thing is with real estate, it's hard because you look at it and you're like, it's $22 a month. If I get one deal from this thing, I can pay for it, right? Like, right. You know what I mean? If I get one deal from this, I can pay. And the amount of things that can be paid for with one deal adds up to 30 deals. And now all of a sudden it's half your budget. And you're like, what the heck am I doing? Exactly. It gets interesting. And we all do realtor math, right? Realtor math is the death of us. I'm sure there are many people sitting in their cars listening to this that are going to get it. Like, I have, 20,000 in pending transactions and this and that. And, well, of course I can buy the new drone. And then half of it doesn't close, something happens, and now you're broke. So
right.
I think net is a huge thing. The other thing that I find interesting is, build like what, and I was getting at it before, is the numbers that we base success on. And it's like, there's a lot of, look, I never want to come on here and preach about what you should be doing in your business. Like, I am the one that has it together. I did this because I want to talk about to people like you and figure out what it takes to get it together. But there are a lot of people out there that will tell you, they'll coach you, they'll teach you, they have it all together, and their balance sheet and their P&L says a completely different story. And so I wish as an industry, we would change the narrative a little bit about what success looks like and what success really is. So to segue that into my brilliant question for you, Treasure Davis, is what does success look like for you?
Success for me, this is a great question. You didn't even prep me for this one. Success to me means that I have a team that is healthy and thriving and honestly hitting their goals, and their dreams are coming true. Like, it's very selfish for me to watch their dreams come true, because it's such an amazing feeling. Like, when you're changing someone else's life, it's so amazing. Deeper for that, for my family, is making sure that I'm teaching my girls that while we can't have it all and nothing's perfect, we can be great wives, great friends, great moms, great business leaders. We don't have to be the women that are kind of stuck in the corner. And so for me, kind of trailblazing that way for my girls to be like, look, you can have this, and roles can change, and you can be the primary breadwinner of your family, and you can be okay with that. And there's going to be success and there's going to be sacrifice. And like when we just went on our road trip, I was teaching my girls, like, do you see why we're getting to do this? It's because we all sacrificed as a family to get here. Remember when you were going and delivering Popeyes for mommy? That's how you're able to get, successful.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's building those whys around my kids. So my daughter is about to turn 15, and I want to be able to buy her a car when she turns 15. Most people buy it when they're 16, but she has to learn how to drive. And I'm not home enough for her to use my car. And so I want to be able to buy her the car, not a brand new Mercedes, but I want to be able to buy her something that's reliable and safe and something that she's not going to be embarrassed to drive around in. And while she's working hard for that, I feel like as a mom, that's what I'm able to contribute to my daughter. And so I build my why and my success around what my kids are needing to want to do. So for us, like my daughter was studying Pompeii. And so I wanted to take the family to Pompeii to go see it firsthand. That's an experience that we built around. So that to me is my success. So.
Well, that was deep. That was very deep.
You don't know what to think of me, do you?
No, it was good. It was good. I liked it. No, and look, I'm really passionate about this, right? Like I want to be, I think I want to be successful just like most people. But I'm passionate about anchor theory, which I don't know that much about, but I'm passionate about it. But I mean, the basis of anchor theory is that most of the time we're anchored, like what we think we deserve for personal success is anchored around something like how we grew up, you know what I mean? And so you'll find that like wealthy people have kids, and those kids, not only do they have a leg up because, they were born to wealthy parents, but they also have this drive and ambition that's higher, and they feel like they're more capable and more deserving of success because their anchor is in wealth. And how do we move the anchor? So you're talking about moving the anchor of what you want to teach your daughters, of what the world may teach them that they're capable of, and you want to move that and show them that they're capable of more. And I think that's really interesting stuff. But I will also say that sometimes we get pitched this idea of success that's monetary, and it's not always that, right? And so you mentioned a lot of things like being a better wife, being a better mom, and being a filthy rich realtor wasn't in that list. No. And so how do you prioritize that, and how do those things kind of work together, right? How is that a symbiotic relationship? How does you being successful in your business lead to you being a better wife, you being a better mom, and everything else?
I mean, I would like to sit here and tell you that I have it all figured out and that it's perfect, but that's honestly not real life. It's something that I have to work hard at every day. I think everybody has to work hard at it every day. But I think it's taking the time to be present in the moments. And I think it's something to take the time, like going on our road trip that we just went on, not having my phone glued to me, not answering the phone call, not answering my text messages, having a team. And before I had a team, having other realtors that we would cover each other organically, and cover each other's businesses was a way that I could connect with my family. So I always take time to do the homework with my kids at night, to kind of check in with them on what they're doing. And while people may have this whole checklist of what they do, like mine's so much simpler than that. It's like, can we go hike Garden of the Gods and just be present together? My daughter likes to do the incline. If you have not Googled the incline in Colorado Springs, Google it. If you ever come out here, I'll have you do it. You may die. You may not die.
Amen.
My brother's a he's a medevac pilot for from the hospital. So he'll come rescue you from the top of the incline. You'll be
good to know people.
Yeah. But it's really good to be present in those moments. Like, not try to be the perfect for everybody all the time, because in that you're going to burn yourself out. But just finding a moment to be present is where I find success. Even if it's just taking 5 minutes to read a book.
Treasure, you're poking at some stuff right now. Like, this is some real stuff. And I know it's real for me because I'm the same way. Like, I mean, I've designed, my business in a lot of ways to spend more time with my family, right? And a lot of that goes against the norm, right? Because we're supposed to work 80 hours a week to build the big business and all that jazz. But I will say I haven't been doing a good job of being present with the time I do spend with my family. Like I get to spend a lot of hours with my 3-year-old, which I know everybody says are these like magical years to hold on to. And I'm like, well, you know what? I'm going to hold on to them. I'm going to spend a lot of time. But, this thing, right, is always beeping, and I'm always, looking at the cell phone, and I'm not present. So, I think that's really important. Like, work the 60 hours, work the 80 hours, but make the 10 or 15 or whatever it is when you're with your family. Make them worth it. Make the time worth it. And so that's something that I'm working on. Colin Cameron says Tim Macy doesn't work hard at all. Thank you, Colin. I guess. Awesome. But no, Chris Carey has a question. I want to get away from the emotional, heavy stuff. It got real.
No.
It got real. I liked it. But no, Chris Carey had a more tactical question. And on the Tim Macy show, we are about the tactics. We like the tactics. And he said, Treasure, what do you think is a justifiable amount to spend on having an accountant or operator to track your expenses, your P&Ls, and handle your money? I understand this changes person to person, but is there a percentage or specific amount you designate to handling such an important thing for your business? I think this is a good question because we're all at different places, right? And so paying an accountant X amount of dollars for a team is a lot different percentage expense than it is for, solo agent just getting started. So how would you handle that? Where would you put it on the priorities of where you're spending your money?
I mean, I think it's one of the highest ones, because when we were just at a conference last week, a realtor, we were talking about it, and she said, well, I don't do any of that. I just cut up my credit cards once a quarter and have the credit card company send me new credit cards. And then when they call to say we need a payment, then I just decide then yes or no if I want to do it or not. And I thought, I don't want to do that. It may work for some people.
It works, but it doesn't seem like the best approach.
Yeah, she's happy with that approach. I'm not here to tell her that's fantastic for her. Yeah. So I would say spending, a couple $100 a month. And here's the thing with your finances. You have to have, just like with your kids, like you have to have someone watching your kids that you trust. And I'm sure this goes for men and for women. But when you're a working mom, you already have mommy guilt. I'm not sure if dads have dad guilt because I'm not a dad, but women have mommy guilt.
Definitely don't have dad guilt.
Okay. Women have mommy guilt. So we're going to talk about mommy guilt for a minute, okay, on your show.
Hey, listen, this is why I needed a female guest. I need to go into subjects that I don't know anything about.
You need to talk about mommy guilt. And you need to ask your wife, do you ever have mommy guilt? And see what she says to you.
It's going on the screen right now.
It's a real thing. So when you have friends that stay at home and they make everything look fantastic and they're like, ooh, don't you miss that you're missing out on all these pivotal moments of their lives? Like you're missing them, take their first step. You're missing them, say their first word. I'm not missing any of those events. I'm teaching them so much more in the future. And so being surrounded by strong women that understand that and can give each other breaks and breathing rooms and having everything not have to be so perfect is where people find their success. So when I say this is what I do for my P&L, it's not perfect. It's always a work in progress, just like the mommy guilt is always a work in progress. But it's taking the time to run your business like an actual business and not do it because you think it looks fun on HGTV. And you like to look at houses because after you've been in the business for 14 years, houses are houses. You like to connect with the people and build real relationships is really what I found has been the most successful for me. So here's the other thing about P&Ls that I didn't want to forget. And I know I'm kind of bouncing around, but I'm a realtor artist, and that's what we do.
Bounce.
That's what we do. So
Squirrel.
it's also, I know. Where?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, thanks. So the biggest thing is making sure that like I was paying for a service. And while I was like, oh, that's what I pay a month, I didn't dive into that and say, gosh, I need to look at this and go, I like one of my team members that's in Tom Ferry as well. She was like, oh, I pay for this service as well. I'm like, oh, what do you pay? And she's like, I pay $39 a month. And I'm like, wait, your team is the same size as my team, and I'm paying $400 a month. How is that working out? Well, it's because I didn't dive in deep enough to go, are there ways that I can cut and save money here and there? And that is, look, Colin has dad guilt.
I know. I was going to put it. Yeah. Colin has tons of single dad guilt. Apparently, I don't
Thank
care.
you, Colin. Thank you for addressing that there is dad guilt, there is mom guilt. It's a real thing in this business because this business is so selfish. You have to be a little bit selfish. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if anybody else has been on your show to say that or not. But
no, we have mostly the politically correct people that just want to make sure everything seems like it's fantastic. So we're getting real with Treasure Davis today on the Tim Macy Show. We're getting real, and I like it. So yeah, auditing.
He's never going to have a girl on again.
Never. Auditing your expenses and making sure you're not overspending. I mean, yeah, it's huge because we get marketed to. I'm sure every industry does to some extent, but we get marketed to all the time. Like, this thing is going to help you make more money. This thing is going to help you make more money. Sign up for this, and it's going to help you make more money. And if you don't have a grasp on really what is actually an income producing asset in your business, you can spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. The other thing is too, it's like all those things. I mean, I would say half of the things that get marketed to us, they work, right? Like, I don't want to knock the services out there. They work, but not all of them work for you, right? Like, not all of them are a good fit for your business. So you'll get on the phone with some sales guy and he'll tell you how this thing's going to change your business. And it may change somebody's business, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to change yours. And so I think that's the big thing too, is screening these services and saying, look, is this a good fit for me or is this a good fit for somebody else?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So another thing that I have two things that I want to cover before you hang up on me.
Which I'm going to do very shortly because you're too real. You're getting too real, Treasure.
Okay, I'm going to keep it.
It's a tactical show.
I'm keeping this tactical. I'm talking about mommy and daddy guilt, P&Ls, and giving back to your community. What more do you want from me?
Okay. All right. I'll buy it. I'll buy it.
Okay, so another thing that we did was, this came from my coach. So we all pay for professional photography. I think that that's something that everybody does in this business. And one time my coach said to me, you're paying $120 every time you have a listing go live for your photography. And I'm like, that's a pretty good rate. I know people that spend thousands of dollars. I know people that do it with their iPhone. So I'm kind of, I think, in the middle. And she said, no, you're paying way too much for that. You need to cut that cost into half. And I was like, there's no way. I love my photographer. He does a great job. So she says, you have 1 week, and hangs up the phone. Get it done in 1 week. Not only were we able to accomplish it, we are happier with him 3 years later than we were with the first photographer we had. So I would love to challenge everybody to look at your business and have someone who is on the outside look at it and go, where can you cut costs? While you may be thinking to yourself, like, I could never cut the cost of that. Having somebody from the outside look at it and cut it could change your life.
I love my photographer. I can't believe you just said that.
I'm sorry. No. He's out. He's giving you a discount.
I'm with you. No, I know. For me, like, and listen, you do a lot more business than I do, right? And so I'm big on always taking your opinion over mine somewhat, right? Because I was like, what do the more successful people say? So I get it. I just think as far as how big of a portion photography is in selling the house, I think it's one of the most underpriced assets we have as listing agents. I mean, it's for me, it's 80% of what sells those dang houses is the pictures. Absolutely. And I write my guy a check for like $175, $180 or something. And for me, it's the best money I spend. But I'm with you though, when you add it up and you look at the fact that you're going to do, 100 deals this year, all of a sudden you're like, holy crap, that's a big expense. If I could cut that down by 20%, that's huge. Chris Carey talking about the elephant in the room.
Ooh, I like it.
Listen, we're a lot of us on the show. I've interviewed a lot of people that are with the Tom Ferry program, and that's a big expense when you audit your books. So if we're talking about trying to save a couple bucks on photography, what do we say about coaching programs? Because that's a big thing in the industry too. There's a lot of coaching programs and there's a lot of different opinions on it. So what's yours, Treasure Davis?
So let me get on my soapbox really quick.
Get on it.
Yeah, I'm on it. So for me personally, I coached with another program before. Works for some people, fantastic, not going to knock it. But for me, coaching is something that works for me. It probably doesn't work for everybody. Just like you said, some systems, some programs work for other people, some don't work for other people. Coaching is one of those that has absolutely transformed my life. And the way that it's transformed my life, and if you're looking at it as an expense, then you're not using the coaching system well. Like Tim and I are a perfect example of that. I didn't know Tim before he was in our group, right? You're a great realtor in Texas. I'm a great realtor in Colorado Springs. I have a referral. Who am I going to give it to? Am I going to just go to another platform and just be like, hey, who's out there, and just take any name that comes my way? No. We had a conversation and I was like, here's what this client is looking for. Here's what hasn't been working with them. And it worked out really well. So if you're not working the coaching as a referral platform, then you're not working it in the right way. So not only is it a referral platform, and I can tell you that I don't pay for coaching because the referrals that we get more than pay for the coaching, and we're very, very thankful for them. And it's something that we take very, very seriously. But if you're looking at it as just that way, then you're not going to be successful. So for me, I always tell people, like, I would cut Zillow, which I know is another elephant in the room. I would cut Zillow before I would ever cut coaching. And not only because of that, but because of the friendships that I've made, the people that, if I say to someone, hey, I want to revise my buyer presentation, I can get 40 of them in 10 minutes and not have to reinvent the wheel. And so that's something.
You're talking about a lot of the stuff that I love, right? Like, I think that's great. And that's where I've drawn a ton of value from the Tom Ferry organization. And I think it's fantastic. But you're not talking about coaching. You're not talking about coaching. So,
okay. So it all depends on the coach that you get, right?
Yeah.
So the coach that you get, thankfully, I've had the same coach all the years that I've been in coaching. I was very thankful to find someone. But a lot of people want to have a coach that's going to tell them what they want to hear. My coach does not tell me what I want to hear. My coach usually tells me the opposite. And if you're not coachable, you should not be in coaching. If you think everybody deserves a gold medallion at the end of their real estate career, then you shouldn't be in coaching, because being in coaching is having someone who's going to hold you accountable and make you do things that you don't want to do because they're an outside and they're in it with you. And a lot of people are like, oh, I've switched, 14 coaches. Well, do you see the common denominator? The common denominator is not the coaches. The common denominator is you not being coachable. So are you coachable, Tim Macy? Are you coachable?
Not at all. That's why I need a coach. Right? I need a coach to make me coachable, and then get a good coach once I'm coachable.
Exactly.
I do deserve a gold medallion, by the way. Just okay. Yeah, so anyway, if anybody wants to send me one, I deserve a gold medallion. Okay. No, I think you bring up a great point. I think it goes back to some of the other stuff we talked about. Is, when you look at all this stuff, it's like, we go to a Tom Ferry event. Treasure Davis is on stage. I don't know. Wait, you haven't been on stage yet, have you? Have you?
You don't do any research on your guests, do you?
Oh man, no, now I remember.
I did Tom X 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yes.
2 years ago.
Thank you for paying attention and for liking my Tom X talk.
Oh, okay.
Oh my gosh.
All right, I'm coming back. No, but
I'm totally coming. Oh, Chris gave you your gold medallion.
Oh, Chris, you're the man. He's in Boulder. Awesome dude in Boulder. I don't know if you know Chris.
I don't, but see, now I have a new friend, and I don't know if he's in coaching or not, but
he is.
We can be friends because of this. Okay.
He was at Elite Retreat. You know? So anyways, and it goes back to it, right? Like, am I coachable? Right? Do I do well? But because one of the big things with the Tom Ferry stuff is the ecosystem and the organization. Am I good at networking? Right? Where I'm going to take advantage of this, because some people aren't. Some people just aren't good at networking. They're not good at coming in and networking with other agents and doing stuff like this, and they're not going to see the value from it. So I think it goes back to it again, is like, is this expense a good fit for you? Because I can convince you that Tom Ferry is the best coaching organization, I think, out there, out of the bunch you can pick from. But is it the best fit for you? I don't know. So yes. I think
Did you see that Colin said that he watched my talk and he thought it was okay? So thank you, Colin, for.
He said your talk was great. I think you're talking yourself down a little bit. He said your talk was great.
Colin, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Is that the hang up button? Is that the?
No. Hold on. Somebody called me, and so I tried to mute them, and then I guess I hit the lock button multiple times, and it sent an emergency SOS. Yeah, so cops may show up. We'll see, though. The show must go on. So, look, I've had you for a little while. I think we've talked about some good stuff. We talked about you giving back to the community, awesome things you're doing with your military clientele in Colorado Springs. We talked about the net a lot and what you're spending money on and your expenses, and then we talked about mom guilt, which was awesome. But overall, you should have, hopefully, a lot of people that watch this, hopefully a lot of podcast downloads and people that listen to it. Treasure Davis in Colorado Springs, if you had to tell real estate agents one thing they were going to leave this interview with, and that they were going to maybe pivot their view or have a little bit of a paradigm shift, what would it be?
Gosh, there's so many things that I could share, but one of them that I'm super passionate about right now is called board meetings. Have you had a board meeting? Do you know what a board meeting is, Tim? It's okay.
A board meeting? Like it
Yes.
sounds, yeah.
So when you look at your team, whether you're an individual agent or whether you have a big team, looking at it.
No, I'm just joking. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh,
I think what you're about to say is important, so I don't want to.
We're going to go back to mommy guilt. We're going to talk about mommy guilt, and I'm going to make you very uncomfortable.
No, board meeting. Let's talk about board meeting.
Okay. So board meeting is where, as realtors, we have a lot of liability. And I don't think that that's something that realtors talk a whole lot about, is their liability. So something that we do once a year, which I think has been fantastic, is having a board meeting. And we've done this ever since it was just us. Obviously, the finances when you're solo versus when you have a team are a lot different, and years in the business. So we sit down with our accountant, with our lawyer, and with our financial advisors. We all sit down together in the same room and talk about, with the attorney, where they see our liabilities, if we have everything protected, what insurances that we need to have in place, and making sure that everything's in track with our estate, and not necessarily that we have a lot of money, but with our kids and our wills and our power of attorneys and our medical power of attorneys, and making sure that all of that is set up. And it's not a fun process. Like you're saying in there, like, okay, if I die, I want this. And if you die, you want this. And if my kids die, I want this. And looking at the liability. So someone on my team had a very big tragedy, and somebody was killed. And looking at that from a liability, because people think that realtors make a lot of money. And so making sure that you're protected and making sure that you're in your best space if something were to happen or an accident were to happen. Even down to your homeowner's insurance is a really big deal. And then looking at your financial advisors to make sure that because of the tax amount that we pay, making sure that they're moving the money around and doing what they need to the most, and then sitting down with your accountant to make sure that they can save money on taxes and kind of reduce it and come up with ways that you can save money that we would not know of. So that is something that I would say, no matter if you're a solo agent or a big agent, the meeting doesn't have to be long. It could be 20 minutes. You know, you may not have a lot to talk about, but taking the time to make sure that you're protected in all avenues of your life is, to me, a really big deal. I wish I would have done it when I first got into the business, but it took me a few years to do it. So,
yeah, I think as real estate agents, we're very action oriented. We want to take action, and we're not great at planning things that we don't want to plan. And so I think, yeah, doing that stuff, it all goes back to what you're talking about, being focused on your net. I can get a kind of good feel for your personality here. It's like you can't let the things get away from you, right? You have to focus on the important things and make sure you don't have loose ends. A lot of times as real estate agents, we think we can out earn our issues, right? Like, oh, I just make more money, right? Like, oh, I owe this money, I'll just make more, right? Like, oh, I put too much on the credit card, I'll just make more money. Where sometimes you have to take a step back, do some planning, look at your future stuff and start doing the things that aren't so fun. So that is an awesome message to leave people with, because I think as an industry, we all need to do more of it. Chris Carey, real quick before we let you go, how often do you do, or Colin with his
I saw that.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, that's I'm sure you never heard that before.
Never heard it.
Chris asked, how often do you do these board meetings? That's a good question. One and done, or once a year? Okay.
Once a year.
Great. Treasure.
And we do ours for less than an hour. So.
Okay. If for some reason people listen to this interview and they say, wow, that Treasure Davis seems pretty interesting, where can I get a hold of her? What's the best way for people to reach out and connect to you?
My cell phone. Should I give that out or should I not?
I was going to say like an email address or like, Facebook, Instagram. That's usually the normal thing.
Oh.
But you can drop the celly. I mean,
I don't know.
If this goes viral, you may blow up. I would go with.
Who is your audience? Like, who's listening to this right now? I'm kind of scared.
You never know.
Okay. Well, as realtors, our faces are out there, our phone numbers are out there, everything is out there for the world to see. So they can find me on Facebook, Instagram under my name, and they can email me at homes@treasuredavis.com, or you can hit up Tim. He'll connect you to my cell phone, and we can go from there.
I'll screen you. Call me first, and then if you're not a creep, we'll forward you on. So
I like that.
We'll try to thanks for being on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What's GTS?
I like these two on there. Colin and Chris are my favorite. Chris is like GTS and you'll find me. Just like I could GTS Chris and find him. That's how I found you.
It just clicked. It just clicked. It's good. I'm glad we didn't say it because we could still keep this as a clean podcast on iTunes. Good stuff. Well, hey, thanks for being on. I appreciate your time. I know you're doing big things up there in Colorado Springs, so I appreciate you taking out the time for the listeners and the viewers of the old Tim Macy show. And we will be up there at some point to do the incline in Colorado Springs.
Let's do it.
Fun stuff. Thanks for being on, Treasure. Next week, I've got Chris Waters, top selling real estate agent in Austin, Texas. So tune in for that. That's going to be a good one. Talk to you then. Later, guys.